And so I wonder, do you find, I guess, is there any place where helpful conversations could go off the rails and how you can course correct? Like, is there an element of there's a good conversation and then you see many times that it just takes takes a hard left into unknown territory, and how can you bring people back from one of those bad turns?
Yeah. So in the psychotherapy literature, there's this this concept called an alliance rupture,
Okay.
which is sort of like what you're talking
Oh.
about, right?
Okay.
So like you and I get on different pages, right? And so that could be because I said something that got you upset. It could simply be that you and I are just missing each other, right? Like I just don't understand what you're like. I just, like I'm responding as if you said thing A, but you actually said thing B, right?
Okay. Right.
So, we just get on different tracks and like that happens. And so what within this framework, the idea is, so when this happens, to just address it. So like just bring it to the moment, so okay, it seems like I'm missing you, or it seems like we're kind of missing each other. Let's just focus on that, right?
Okay.
Or it seems like you kind of withdrew. So I'm sort of saying this as a therapist more than like as a friend, right? So as a therapist, I might say, I noticed that when you said that, you went from sort of like being leaning forward and being engaged, all of a sudden like sitting back.
I think we all
And
notice these things. Like I think
right,
I think there are elements. I think therapists who have these conversations every day that will notice with maybe more frequency, or though maybe
right,
you guys will notice smaller indications of the same thing.
right.
But I think most of us, we can, unless you're completely checked out of the conversation, you notice when you've asked your friend a question and they've just got really squirrely all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
or they've tried to talk about something else and change the subject. And so I tend to think that we notice these things more than we maybe give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely. So just say it, just that's sort of so like to bring it into the moment of like, wait, I noticed this thing just happened. This thing just changed. What's going so right? Because it could be anything. So it could be related to
Mm,
something you said, or right, this absolutely happens where that'll happen. Wait, what's going on? And the person will say, I just thought that I just realized, or I don't think I put enough money in the parking meter, and I just all of a sudden
okay.
got really stressed out about that. Right? I'm sort of a silly example, but like this
Right.
happens where like something happens in the conversation, it triggers something in the other person, and they just go there. Right. And like this happens to all of us. Oh shit, I realize I have this thing due tomorrow and I totally forgot about it. Right. Like
Right.
that's totally normal. Um, yeah, well, I was just thinking one time I was, this is this random. So I was giving a lecture this was like a decade ago. I was giving a lecture on a topic related to suicide. And like I talked about this stuff, many, many times in public. And like not too long, like a year or two before that, my cousin died by suicide. And I just
Right.
like, as I was, yeah, I mean, most people have lost somebody to suicide, but like it just, for some reason in this, and I talked about this stuff in public, like not about my cousin, but about like this particular topic related to suicide, in public, many times. So it wasn't a weird thing or whatever, but for some reason, I was talking about it. I was in the middle of this lecture. I was probably like 20 minutes into this lecture, and all of a sudden it just hit me like there was something about her and about the specific thing. And I had this moment of just sort of like, maybe if I had talked to her about this thing, she wouldn't have died. Right. And like, it just, and it just hit me. And all of a sudden I'm like up there in front of 20 students and I didn't like, and I just sort of like, I just had this emotional punch in the face. It was so weird. It was so weird. And, and I was able to compose myself and just sort of like keep moving on. But like, this is just an example, right? We're like, of this totally, I mean, like obviously it was related in a sense, but this sort of this, in a way unrelated thing just hit me, and I just had this emotional change in the moment. And that happens all the time to us,
Right.
right? And so like but by checking in, you're able to get clarity on what happened, right? Did I step into something I didn't mean to? Do I not understand? Does it have nothing to do with anything that's going on with the person I'm talking to? And then you can respond based on what they say. Because all the time we make assumptions about why the other person is responding the way that they are.
Yes.
And it is, when you actually start asking, it's almost like jarring how often we're wrong.
Right. Right.
And
Yes.
that's one
I
of the
mean,
very, oh, sorry, go
I,
ahead.
I was going to say, like, there's a lot of people out there that call themselves empaths, and I kind of I laugh at it now because I don't think it's true. I think it's proven that we can't tell how other people are feeling, and I think it's kind of a I think it's a defense mechanism for them that maybe they went through some sort of trauma in their own lives, where someone in their household or around them was always maybe quite volatile, and so they
Mhm.
had to attune to them to try to keep
Right.
themselves safe. And then I think in the future they start doing that, because you never hear empaths say that they always know when someone's happy or when they're ecstatic or when they're going through good moves. It's always people that, oh, I can tell when someone's in a negative space. And
Right.
so I think that's mostly to try to keep themselves safe. But to your
Mhm.
point, and this is in plenty of literature now, that like this is not a skill that humans have. We
Mhm.
are not great at knowing, like, if there's a look on someone's face, how they're feeling and why they feel like that. We don't know if they're mad at us, or because they just thought of their cousin in a tragic accident, or they have indigestion and they want to go
Right.
home. Like
Yeah.
all of these things, right?
Well, and I think that I do think that certain people are more able to pick up on those sort of negative reactions from others, but I think it's the why, right? Like
Hmm.
that is where we really suck, right?
Right.
So that it can be like, that oftentimes, for those who are more like in the example that you gave, which I think is a great example, that you're going, so this alarm goes off, and that oftentimes we overinterpret or that it's us, right?
Right.
Because we're all sort of the star of our own movie. And so like we think, oh, they're doing it in response to me, when they're not at
Right.
all.